This is Radio Free Signs of the Times, bringing the news to an occupied America.
This planet is controlled and locked down, and has been for centuries, if not millennia. And the question is, why? Why must planet Earth be locked down, dumbed down, so thoroughly controlled, and for so long? Why? Who and what is behind this? This is just one of the questions asked by Dr. Richard Sauder, Laura Knight-Yadchik's guest on this week's Signs of the Times podcast. Richard is the author of several books that minutely detail US government research and development of electronic equipment which can be used for mind control, and the disconcerting topic of underground and underwater bases and tunnels. The day before 9/11, the Pentagon admitted that it could not account for $2.3 trillion. To this day, no one knows what that money is. Rex 84 is short for Readiness Exercise 1984. First revealed during the Iran-Contra hearings in 1987, Rex 84 is a US government plan through which an undisclosed number of concentration camps were set in operation throughout the United States. The purpose for these camps? Internment of dissidents and others potentially harmful to the state. The Miami Herald reported on July 5, 1987, that Rex 84 was like a government within a government, and that these camps are to be operated by FEMA should martial law need to be implemented in the United States, and all it would take is a presidential signature on a proclamation and the Attorney General's signature on a warrant to which a list of names is attached. There are 300 million American citizens. In the event of widespread civil unrest, FEMA's 800 prison camps at 20,000 per camp could hold a maximum of 16 million disgruntled American citizens. But surely widespread civil unrest in America would involve more than 16 million or 5% of the population. What about the rest? What has the Pentagon and dozens of defence contractors been doing with that 2.3 trillion lost dollars? Listen to this week's Signs of the Times podcast to find out.
The first thing I want to talk about here is this, you've got this new edition of underwater and underground bases, which I guess is a new edition of the original underground bases and tunnels. Is that correct?
Well, it's not really a new edition. It's an entirely separate book that stands on its own. There is some overlap of material, but it would be on the order of 1 or 2%. It's virtually a new book, hence the different titles, similar but different. The theme, the subject matter is similar, but no, the content is not identical. Those who like the first book will like this third book, which is actually my third book.
Right.
Although you could say in one sense it's a sequel to Underground Bases and Tunnels.
Right. Well, the one thing that I'm sure that the average person would want to know is what got you interested in the subject of underground
that's been
bases.
A lifelong interest. When I was a kid in elementary school, I think it was about in the first or second grade, I won a spelling bee, and I went to a little 2-room country schoolhouse that I walked to a mile each way, and my brothers and I, and it was out in the farms and the fields there in rural southeast Virginia, and I won a spelling bee, and as a prize I won a book about caves, spelunking and caves, which fascinated me to no end. And then I guess maybe that was an initial goad to my interest in this topic. But then I later on gave it no thought and actually did not concern myself with things that were going on underground. Just was not on my mental horizon until for some reason when I moved out to the Southwest in the late 1980s to do my doctoral program in political science, I heard people talking about a purported secret underground network of tunnels through which there were allegedly little gray aliens and clandestine or covert elements of the United States military and military-industrial complex operating these sci-fi-like tube shuttle trains.
Did you think these kinds of things were crazy?
Pardon me?
Did you think those kinds of ideas were crazy?
No, what I thought was that they were very interesting stories. Now, I have to interject that as an adolescent, I read tons of science fiction. I mean, it wouldn't be fair to say I read it. It would be more accurate to say that I inhaled entire stacks of science fiction novels. And so, I mean, I couldn't even tell you how much just oodles of it, thousands and thousands of scads of pages of science fiction. So, of course, in the process of reading all of that science fiction, I got exposed to all kinds of interesting thoughts and concepts to which I was drawn like a moth to a light. And so when I heard these stories when I moved out to the Southwest, I thought, that they have a certain currency there in the culture, and a fair number of people will discuss these things. And so I started thinking, why are people talking about this? And I didn't dismiss it out of hand. I did think it was unusual. I also knew that I didn't know if the stories were true or false, but I kind of mentally filed them. They interested me, but I didn't know what I could do about it. So if you've ever been in an intensive academic program in graduate school, you know that it demands all of your time and energy. It's virtually all-consuming. So I really didn't have time to look into this. However, after I finished my comprehensive exams and moved on to and got my thesis proposal accepted by my committee, I had a little more time and control over my schedule. So I looked into this, and I wrote a short article for UFO magazine out in Los Angeles, edited and published by Vicki Cooper and Don Ecker.
Oh, yeah.
And it appeared in early November of 1992. And in the article, I basically said that I could neither prove nor disprove these stories of the so-called jointly administered or operated or run highly secretive high-tech facilities underground, operated by clandestine elements of the United American military-industrial complex and alleged little gray aliens that I couldn't prove it or disprove it.
Right.
I wouldn't dismiss the stories out of hand. On the other hand, I wouldn't just gullibly accept them on someone's say-so. And I did say that nonetheless, doing a search of the open literature, I could say that there were a lot of underground facilities, bases, and installations operated by a variety of government agencies such as FEMA and quasi-government agency like the Federal Reserve, the Department of Energy, the Department of Defense, and so forth. And there are a good number of those sprinkled around North America.
But these are ones that are admitted to or acknowledged?
These are.
Okay.
And anyone can find them if they're willing to do a little digging, if you pardon the pun, as I did. It didn't take me too long. At the first cut, you're going to find those. Sites like Site R up on the border of Maryland and Pennsylvania, which is something like an alternate underground Pentagon command center. It's been there for decades. Or the fairly well-known underground Monsanto base at Kirtland Air Force Base in Albuquerque, or the NORAD underground base out under Cheyenne Mountain in the Rockies of Colorado, or the multiple underground FEMA bases like the one north of Denton in Texas, the one down in South Georgia, the one at Bothell, Washington, the one just north of Washington, D.C., off of Riggs Road in suburban Maryland. And there are a number of these around the country run by FEMA. And you can, and in the DOE underground stuff out in Nevada and various other places. And you can find those mentioned in a variety of articles, books, and government documents, and you don't have to look that hard to find them.
Right.
Even doing a keyword search online will turn up a fair amount of this stuff. Now, so I found these things, and I wrote a brief article and talked about it and said, well, I can't say anything about this clandestine stuff and or aliens, purported aliens underground,